Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire with the National General Secretary of the JDU and the party's chief spokesperson, Pavan Varma. On Sunday, Mr. Varma wrote an article for the Asian Age which was a stinging critique of the BJP. Today, he's going to talk about that article, his views about the BJP, and his future with his own party, the JDU. Pavan Varma, let's start with the article you wrote for the Asian Age on Sunday. After calling the BJP delusional, you write, "It has come to believe that it alone has the right to decide on what is good for the country, and nobody has the right to question it. In its mind, the partisan interests of the party have become one with the good of the country, and the party's manifesto has become more important than the Constitution of India." Let me start by asking you, can you explain what's brought you to this conclusion about a party that is officially an ally of your party, JDU?
Well, let me clarify, Karan. I have taken a position publicly against the JDU's support of the Citizenship Amendment Bill in Parliament. So what I say may not be representing what JDU feels, but it certainly represents what I, in accordance with my conscience, feel. In my view, look at what the BJP has been doing since it won a stupendous margins, its victory in May 2019. The entire agenda and the manner in which it has been done. And I say the manner because, for instance, we were in support of the bill against triple talaq, but the kind of bill that was rammed through Parliament was flawed and we wanted further discussion on it. But the BJP didn't agree. It's in a tearing hurry. So all the issues that the BJP seems to be picking upon and trying to implement or rush through are issues which have nothing to do with the real priorities of what India and Indians want. The economy is in a tailspin. Jobs have become scaringly scarce. There is disquiet across the country. A sentiment of fear prevails. But the BJP's manifesto, as I wrote, has become in a sense what the BJP believes is the constitution of this country and what the BJP believes they believe is right for the country. And anyone who questions it is now labeled as anti-national or fit to go to Pakistan. So there is a unilateralism in the BJP's approach, but what is worse is that unilateralism is divorced from, objectively, what the realities and needs of the country are. And therefore, I believe, in a sense, the party is delusional.
You go one step further, and again I want to quote from your article. You write, "Anyone opposing the BJP is against the interests of the country. A visible arrogance and hubris informs the party's schemes." Are you therefore suggesting that the BJP is becoming both undemocratic and high-handed, and this is unacceptable in Indian politics?
Well, certainly, even the functioning of the BJP internally, from what appears from outside, is highly centralized. In fact, the duo of Narendra Modi and Amit Shah decide and the party follows. I don't believe there is the kind of inner party discussion or consideration or discourse that the BJP, incidentally, including the RSS, have had in the past. So at one level in the party itself, there is unwarranted centralization of authority. But even otherwise, if you look at some of their decisions, they show a hubris and an arrogance which immediately converts anyone even making a constructive critique to be an enemy of the state. Now, it requires a mindset to believe that only they have a monopoly on the truth. This is a country which is a democracy. You have famously Amartya Sen's title of the argumentative Indian. People can have different views. People are not necessarily your enemy because they differ with you. But there is a brittle intolerance within the BJP now which conflates anyone who dissents with being an enemy of the state, not only of the party. you are anti-national. And therefore, I believe this kind of approach is in itself divisive.
And you're also saying that this BJP today of Narendra Modi and Amit Shah is very different to the BJP of Vajpayee and Advani, which was the BJP with which the JDU originally allied.
Well, I think that in the past, although the BJP has always had its agenda of, in some sense, affecting the natural social harmony of a plural and composite nation like India by the imposition of majoritarianism, Hindu majoritarianism. And I will speak again about why it's not good for Hindus, but it was always informed with that. But there was a collegium, there was a forum for discussion, there was the ability to accept moderation and restraint, there was the willingness to introspect, there was the proclivity to modify or change, and also the ability to listen to another point of view.
Modi and Shah have done away with all of that.
I believe yes. And perhaps it's due to the fact that under Narendra Modi, the BJP has won 2 successive elections with absolute majorities. So they have begun to believe that because of this electoral success, everything the government does must be automatically validated. In other words, if you have voted for the BJP, you have no right to question it anymore. And this is exceptionally dangerous for democracy.
They're not just omnipotent in their power, but they believe they're omniscient in their knowledge.
They believe that what we believe is good for the country, and it's very important to grasp this point. What we believe is good for the country is actually good for the country, and any view that is contrary to it is not good for the country or is anti-national. Now, to make that kind of inference in a democracy itself is a portent for authoritarian rule.
In fact, you are suggesting that at least within the party their control is authoritarian, and their attitude to dissent in the rest of the country suggests they're authoritarian as well.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So you're deeply disillusioned with the BJP at the moment.
I'm disillusioned and disappointed also. I belong to a party which was an ally of the BJP. And in the days of Atal Bihari Vajpayee and L.K. Advani, we were allies for 17 years. But the blatantly divisive agenda of the BJP must make every Indian pause and think whether this is good for our country or not. And somewhere, people like me who are in politics must follow their vivek, their zamir, their sense of conscience of what is good and what is bad for the country.
You're actually saying the BJP, its attitude, its policies is bad for India.
In my view, this attempt to create division in society. You see, Karan, you have to understand one thing. This is a country of many faiths. For instance, let us talk of the Muslims. They are not segregated in one geographical area separate from everyone.
They're spread across the country.
They are spread across the country. Hindus and Muslims live cheek by jowl as neighbors across the nation and have done so for centuries. Now, if you begin to play with the exquisite tapestry and fragile tapestry of a plural and composite India as though you were a bull in a china shop, you are going to create constant instability, turmoil, turbulence, discord and acrimony in society, which is not good for Indians,
And
irrespective of Hindus or Muslims.
And ultimately threaten the integrity of this country.
I think so. Because India is India precisely because of who we are, which is a nation of many faiths, where our founding fathers opted to adopt a constitution which respects people of all faiths and does not discriminate in matters of how they are looked upon.
And do you directly blame Narendra Modi and Amit Shah for this direction for the way things are developing, for the threat that's developing?
I think that there is one argument. There's one argument which says that many of the things they are doing was in their party manifesto. And therefore, since you have voted the BJP to power, you must support everything in the manifesto. Quite apart from the fact that manifestos are usually not read in very great detail, even if I voted for you and there are aspects of your manifesto which people of India believe are not good for the country, and as you can see from the protests that are happening across the country against the CAA and the NRC, that may be the case. The BJP believes that you have forfeited the right to protest because you voted for us, which is the dangerous thing for democracy.
And what Modi and Shah are doing are pushing policies relentlessly which you believe endanger the fabric of India, democracy, our constitution, and ultimately even our very integrity.
I think so, because I think India rests on a certain foundation. And I want to bust the myth that the BJP is the party that speaks for Hindus. That is not the case. You can't believe that Hindus are necessarily happier if there is instability in society, if there is a sense of disquiet, if there is fear, if there is strife and turmoil. No. Hindus and Muslims and people of all faiths, Indians as such, want to get on with their lives, to have schooling, roads, water, electricity, security, harmony, and live together peacefully as part of a vibrant and prosperous nation. This illusion that the BJP has, that it is speaking or is the only party that seems to be representing Hindu interests, is wrong. What they are doing is being opposed by Hindus and Muslims alike.
Let's come at this point to the CAB. Actually, now it's the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act. In your article, you said, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I believe this lies at the core, at the very heart of your disillusionment with the BJP. Now, in your article, you call it totally unacceptable and a flawed piece of legislation. But Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, has said it's 1,000% correct. And then he adds in a tweet, this act illustrates India's centuries-old culture of acceptance, harmony, compassion and brotherhood. Almost the exact opposite of your views.
Because Mr. Narendra Modi should, I think, and it's gratuitous of me to give him advice, he's the Prime Minister of the country, should read the Constitution. Article 14 and 15 read together are categorical on the fact that where citizenship is concerned, there can be no discrimination made on the basis of caste or creed.
In fact, Article 14 applies to every person in India, not just citizens of India. Anyone on the soil of India it applies to.
And the manner in which the bill has been flawed, where 3 countries have been arbitrarily chosen, other countries from where too you could have people persecuted for their religious beliefs come into the country, like for instance Sri Lanka or Nepal, they have been excluded. And the most curious and frightening aspect of the BJP argument is that the CAA and the NRC are a means of correcting the wrongs of partition. Now you have to understand, and this is the one thing that the BJP refuses to grasp, Karan. Partition created Pakistan, which created itself as a theocracy. India chose deliberately, consciously, resolutely to not be a mirror image of Pakistan. India chose to be a country which is secular, which privileges social harmony and respect for all faiths and grants equal rights to all its citizens. So therefore to say that since in Pakistan it's an Islamic state, it's time for India, through whatever measures we adopt, to also begin to approximate what Pakistan is going against the very idea and soul of India. And by the way, let me add, the CAA cannot be seen in isolation. You must have clarity of thought on this matter. The CAA and the NRC are two sides of the same coin with the conjoint goal of creating fissures and divisions in society on the basis of religion.
In fact, you say precisely that in your Asian Age article. You say the CABs and even the pernicious National Register of Citizens aim together is to divide India and disrupt its peace and harmony. If that's the aim of these measures which Modi and Shah are consciously, deliberately and persistently pursuing, do you also believe it's their intention and in fact their desire to divide the country, split it along communal lines?
Certainly, at least that is the only intent one can gather from the manner in which these two measures have been announced. Now, the CAA, to my mind, is the single most unnecessarily divisive legislation that Parliament has passed recently, because it is discriminatory prima facie in accordance with the Constitution, although the Supreme Court will pronounce on it in its wisdom. The NRC has only a mandate for Assam, a Supreme Court mandate.
But now they intend to make it nationwide.
And even in Assam, as they realized, given the cumbersome procedures of producing documents where the onus of proof to prove that you are a citizen lies on the citizen, the BJP itself has rejected the NRC.
And yet they want to do it nationwide.
And yet Mr. Amit Shah says that he wants to take NRC across the country on what mandate? Yes, we should be against illegal immigrants in the country because this is a country for the citizens of India. But I believe the NRC is a hugely abrasive exercise which will put a great burden on citizens of this country from especially the poorer and underprivileged backgrounds, where they will be required to prove their citizenship. And then if you are Hindu and without the documents, you can be brought back in under the CAB, whereas a particular community, which for instance are Muslims, will be kept out, and the bill has not been thought through. What do you do with those who don't figure on the NRC? You haven't found a solution in Assam. You are building detention centers. You are building detention centers much like what happened in Nazi Germany.
And your attitude to the people is getting towards the attitude the Germans had to the Jews. Isolate them, separate them, contain them, don't let them be part of the mainstream.
And even if they were to build illegal detention centers, how many are they going to build? What is the cost? What does it do to the social fabric? What is the level of fear it creates in society? This country wants to get on to goals which matter to the quality of life of citizens. It does not want this division. Hindus don't want it. All other faiths don't want it.
In fact, if you look at the combination of the NRC and the CAA, the only people who will be deemed to be illegal if they haven't got documents, and let's be honest, most poor Muslims will not have documents, will in fact be Muslims. And then they can either be deported, assuming some country accepts them, or put into detention centers and kept there forever.
That is the intent. But what is significant in this, Karan? It's not just for nothing that for 70 years we've been a secular democracy. Today, even if the targets are Muslims, Hindus are also protesting what is being done. You have to grasp this point, because this perennial instability in society is something which the Hindu psyche does not like. I say to you, I am a proud Hindu. My last book, as you may be aware, was on Adi Shankaracharya, Hinduism's greatest thinker. I have written on various aspects of Hinduism. I know more of Hinduism than many of the spokesmen for Hindus in the bigoted sections of the BJP and its affiliated organizations. I say to you Hindus do not want a nation at perpetual war with itself. It's against their self-interest, against their instinct, and against their priorities.
And yet Amit Shah has got on record yesterday to say the CAA will happen come what may. And I'll add, NDTV and Scroll.in believe, they both did stories yesterday, that the NRC, which hasn't even as yet got cabinet approval to go nationwide, is actually happening quietly and secretly through something called the National Population Register. And I know that the NPR usually happens with the census, but this time it's happening well before the census, and two new questions have been introduced that were never part of the NPR before. Are or were your parents Indian? And secondly, if you have a passport, what are the passport details? Now, suddenly, come what may is the attitude to the CAA, and the NPR is happening quietly as a way of bringing in the National Register of Citizenship secretly. This situation is getting worrisome every day.
See, Mr. Amit Shah believes, and this is where I worry, that the agenda of the BJP as outlined in its manifesto is infallible. And it is also the only thing which is good for the country and the party. Now you must understand why the BJP is doing it. It's not for a love of Hindus. It's in order to reap electoral dividends on the basis of a policy of divide and rule.
Other the Muslim, and hopefully believe that will unite
And you can
Hindus.
consolidate the Hindu vote. But Hindus, incidentally, and very importantly, are not puppets in the hands of political masters who see them as cannon fodder.
Nor, and I want to ask you this, are they likely to be anti-Muslim in the way that Modi and Shah hope they will be? If you other the Muslims, Hindus will unite behind us. That's a false assumption.
In fact, the approach of Indians as a whole is, तू हिंदू बनेगा ना मुसलमान बनेगा, इंसान की औलाद है, इंसान बनेगा. Hindus and Muslims and Christians and Sikhs and Parsis and other faiths have lived in this country on the basis of a very high level of tolerance which has come to them as an inherited legacy for centuries, which is the only way as a nation we can get along.
Which is why you say, as a recognized scholar of Hinduism, Hindus do not support these policies. They do not support this anti-Muslim attitude of Modi and Shah. They do not support this attempt to divide the country to gain electoral benefits for the BJP. That's what you're saying as a Hindu scholar.
I'm saying that, and I think that at the current moment, देखिए, ultimately two things matter. Dhanda, rozgar. When the economy is in such bad shape, when people who are educated are not getting jobs, when the unorganized sector is in complete doldrums, when those who run small businesses can't survive and are closing shop, when big business is worrying whether they can continue in the same way for the next 6 months, when investor sentiment is down, in this situation, trying to whip up a communal hysteria through a well-organized agenda to divide people is not going to find resonance, although I believe even if the economy was buoyant, Hindus would say,
It still wouldn't.
We do not support moves that create endemic, and I use the word carefully, endemic instability in society.
You've also made another very important, not only is the Modi government divisive and communal and trying to pit India's communities against each other, but in terms of tackling the actual problems the country faces, economic, agricultural, employment, it's actually completely failing to do so. It's not even paying attention to them.
Because of misplaced priorities. Perhaps somewhere there is a thought that in the first term of 5 years after 2014, you made the right noises about Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas, and particularly Vikas. But now in your second term, at the end of which Mr. Modi will be nearer the date of reaching the Marg Darshak Mandal or whatever it's
75.
called. 75. This is the time to ignore all other priorities and move on the agenda of a majoritarian, aggressive, authoritarian Hindu state, forgetting the fact that they don't have the support of the Hindus in this venture, because what they are doing is against the interests of Hindus, Muslims and all Indians. This is what they forget.
So, in a nutshell, this is a bad government, maybe even a very bad government.
Well, I would think that it could be a much better government. It's bad, certainly, because I don't agree with their agenda, with their vision, with what they are planning to do, and I don't believe it's good for India.
And they're
It
also
could be better.
exacerbating real problems by not tackling them.
And it could be better because they could have been tackling all this while what really matters to the ordinary citizen, which is things which affect the quality of their lives.
Then at this point, Pavan Varma, let's talk about you. You're still, and I use that word advisedly, a member of the JDU. Your party, the JDU, is an ally of the BJP. In fact, its survival in power in Bihar depends upon the BJP. But given your strong views, which you've expressed candidly and I would add unreservedly and very openly, do you think that alliance should continue?
In my view, everyone should look beyond the immediate political expediency. Yes, we are in alliance with the BJP in Bihar. Yes, the government in Bihar is a coalition. Yes, perhaps the JDU and the BJP need each other to fight the elections next year when the assembly elections are due. But at the same time, the JDU, and especially Mr. Nitish Kumar, has been a leader who on specific issues, even while in alliance with the BJP, has taken a strong position of differing, of saying we are allies but I don't agree. We did that, for instance, in the manner in which Article 370 was rammed through Parliament. There are issues on which we protest, particularly, for instance, when there are overt communal voices in the BJP, we come out against them. What has caused me great anguish, Karan, is that at this juncture, when the CAA or the CAB, when it was in Parliament, we as a party, when Mr. Nitish Kumar had spoken to us at considerable detail on why the CAB is not good for the country and why certainly the NRC will be disastrous for the country, for the JDU on flimsy and expedient lines to prefer immediate possible political dividend to the far more fundamental pursuit of ideological chastity, to my mind, that is unacceptable. It is against our party constitution, which incidentally on the very first page of our constitution, the word secular occurs 3 times. There perhaps are not that many constitutions of political parties which emphasize this so much. And Mr. Nitish Kumar himself has always stood against attempts to create divisions in society on the basis of dharam and mazhab and religion. So it is a matter of deep anguish for me. And I spoke to Mr. Nitish Kumar, and let me share this with you publicly. Before I made an appeal to him through a public tweet, I spoke to him personally, as a soldier of the party would do, requesting him to reconsider this and giving my reasons for it. But he did not agree with me, and then I issued a public tweet urging him to reconsider the party stand. And the party still went ahead and voted with the government in support of the CAB. And this has caused me very deep anguish.
I'm just picking up on something you said in that very interesting and important answer. You actually began by saying that earlier, Nitish Kumar had actually lectured the JDU that the CAB was bad for the country. That was his original position. And yet he seems to have changed it. And he insisted upon changing it despite the fact you spoke personally and advised him against it, but he still changed his view and decided to support the CAB.
In fact, Mr. Nitish Kumar was very sensitive to the concerns in the Northeast. He was conscious about the need to preserve identity in the Northeast, for that identity not to be swamped. And in fact, one of the reasons why he said the CAB would be not good for the country was keeping the interests of the Northeast in mind.
But all of that he forgot.
What happened to all of that? The Northeast is in flames and the rest of the country is inflamed. My point is that if you are willing to jettison ideology on the altar of expedient politics, somewhere you are on the wrong track.
And that is what he's done in this instance. He's jettisoned his ideology and his principles for the expedient need of BJP support.
Well, it seems to me to be that, and it's too late to now discuss it because the party has gone and supported it in the Rajya Sabha.
And you're saying something else, although not openly. It's his need or his desire to continue as Chief Minister of Bihar. Elections are due there next year, which has kept him allied with the BJP and supporting something that he knows is bad for the country. His personal ambition and desire to continue as Chief Minister has trumped his principles and ideology.
I don't want to comment on what is propelling him to take this course.
But it looks like it, doesn't it?
But I know this course is wrong. That is my main point. Chief ministerships will come and go. But there are certain issues on which there can be no compromise, no surrender, no complicity. And this is one of those issues.
Then let me ask you this. Given your views and how strongly you've expressed them, and given the fact that your leader is going to continue to support the BJP and go against his own views, how long can you continue in the JDU?
I think, given my views and the frankness with which I express them, my own assessment is that my position in my party is irrevocably untenable. What I do next is something I can't share with you, but I realize that I am not in sync with the party's line, and therefore I must, having made my dissent public, take further course, take the next steps towards what I need to do.
You aren't saying it openly, and I can understand why, but you're clearly suggesting, hinting, that if your position is irrevocably untenable and you're going to take steps to take the logical next one thereafter, you're going to leave the party. That's what you're hinting. You're going to leave the party. You can't say when, but it's becoming unavoidable.
I would like to devote the next few years and all my political energy to create a sane and credible alternative in this country at the political level. This country needs choice again, which is congruent with what the country's good is.
And to do that, you will probably, if not certainly, have to step out of the JDU and start a new party.
I don't know if I start a new party, but I know this. The country needs a credible alternative which is sane and good for the country, and I will work towards that end. The party can remove me, or I can remove myself from the party. Certainly, with my public position now on the question of what the BJP is doing, my remaining within the JDU is untenable.
Tell me something. Both you and Prashant Kishore have spoken out publicly. Your criticism and dissent is well known. Your anguish is well expressed. But are you lone voices in the JDU, or are there others who feel the same way, even if they're unable or unwilling to speak out?
No, there are many others. We have another National General Secretary, Ghulam Rasool Baliavi. He was a former member of Parliament from the Rajya Sabha. He has written an open letter which he made public to Mr. Nitish Kumar, asking him to reconsider the party's stand on it. There are other voices as well. Look, I value the fact that in JDU there is still some level of inner party democracy where people can speak. But individuals have to decide that when what they say is not listened to or does not change the course of the party or the leader's way of thinking, they have to make choices about what they do next.
And what Nitish Kumar has done by pushing his line is to cause great anguish in his party and not just uncertainty but unhappiness. His party is not happy with this.
There are protests in Bihar, Karan, against the CAA and the possibility of the NRC. Mr. Nitish Kumar himself is now saying, having supported the CAA in Parliament, that I will not allow the NRC in Bihar. What does it show? It shows that there is lack of ideological clarity in my party. And now I believe there is no point in backtracking. How can you support the CAA when you know that it is hyphenated, joined at the hip with the NRC? The two cannot be seen in isolation. So how could you support the CAA is my question.
Let's talk about Nitish Kumar. When you first joined politics as his cultural advisor and then as a member of the Rajya Sabha for the JDU, you were very close to him. Today, I take it, there are big gaps in your thinking and attitude. There are serious differences in your approach.
Well, I see it in two different ways. I'm very grateful to Mr. Nitish Kumar. I was in the Foreign Service, as you know. I was ambassador in Bhutan. I resigned from the Foreign Service to join Mr. Nitish Kumar. He was kind and generous enough to make me, on the very month that I resigned, as advisor to the Chief Minister with cabinet rank. Subsequently, he sent me to the Rajya Sabha. I'm very grateful to him, and my debt of gratitude will always remain. As an individual, as a person, I still have great fondness and respect for him. My opposition is on the question of principle and ideology, and that opposition will remain.
And there you're disappointed with him.
I'm disappointed with him.
Disillusioned as well?
I'm disillusioned, disappointed, and in great anguish about his stand, and it becomes impossible for me to now follow the party line as far as these decisions are concerned.
The Nitish of today is not the Nitish you joined 6 years ago.
I don't want to make personal comments on people, Karan, but when I joined Mr. Nitish Kumar, he was a man who, irrespective of consequences, took decisions as he believed them to be right. For instance, his decision, even at the time of the most verifiable nationwide ascendancy of Mr. Narendra Modi, to oppose him because he believed that Mr. Narendra Modi would be not good for the country and its social harmony and pluralism. That was a brave and courageous decision, irrespective of the consequences. In fact, he and the party and all of us suffered for it. We had our worst electoral performance after that when we fought separately and alone from the other opposition parties. We got only 2 seats in the parliament. And yet we said, on principle and ideology, we will do what we think is right, irrespective of the political consequences. I am trying to look for, to search for, to find once again in my leader the same Mr. Nitish Kumar.
There's a big difference. The Nitish Kumar of 2014-15 broke with the BJP and Modi at the cost of his own political career, suffered electorally, but believed his principles were more important. Today, it seems that same Nitish Kumar gives priority to his political survival, to his continuing as Chief Minister, and he's doing it at the cost of his principles and ideology.
What is the source of my anguish, Karan? That a man like Nitish Kumar, for whom I still retain a great deal of personal respect, has somehow overlooked, intentionally or unintentionally, the issues of principle and ideology where the JDU is concerned.
Which also means at the end of the day, he's let down his own party.
Well, I would think that it has let down the party's constitution. We are a party that is non-negotiably committed to a secular India. If you don't like the word secular, a country which respects all faiths and which is unflinchingly till the very end against communal divides.
The party may be unflinchingly and non-negotiably committed to secularism. Its leader, sadly, is not.
Well, from his support of the CAA, it appears that somewhere he does not see, either he does not see what the CAA and the NRC are about, or he has taken a decision in a hurry, or he has taken a decision to suit the political expediencies of a coalition with the BJP in Bihar. But I am making this point to you repeatedly. Mr. Nitish Kumar, as an individual and as a leader, with his own verifiable ideology that has been chiseled and developed over decades, was not a man who took into account political expediencies. He stuck to ideology and principle.
Sadly, it doesn't seem to be the same today. I want to move before I end this interview to one other aspect because I think it's important you should speak about it. The manner in which the police handled students at Jamia Millia on Sunday. First, it seems, they were marched out of the university with their hands in the air as if they were prisoners of war. Then it seems the police stormed the university library and ransacked it. Students were even assaulted, it seems, in the bathroom if one goes by the videos that have been made available. And now there are fears that perhaps bullets were fired, although that's not confirmed. How do you respond to all of this?
There are two things I want to say on this, Karan. Firstly, I must say that I am against the vandalization of public property. I am against the use of violence. I fully support the right of peaceful protest in the best traditions of our Gandhian legacy. So if there is violence, I condemn it. If there is vandalization of public property, I condemn it. At the same time, we need to ask what was the reason for this degree of police excess. Students were beaten up. And let me say to you, please don't fall into this cleverly crafted design of conflating protests with anarchy and students with miscreants. This is the aim of the BJP. Students are a lightning rod to reflect the angst of a society. They are our future. They are our children. They do not want an India in endemic turbulence and turmoil. They want peace, harmony, progress, security, and an avenue to move forward in life. They want jobs. Their priorities are different. And whether they are Hindus or Muslims, across the country they are saying enough is enough. And we must hear their voice instead of tarring them with the brush of being puppets of some political party or seeing them only through the prism of Hindu and Muslim. It's doing a great disservice if you devalue and demean what our youth are saying. The government should listen, not castigate and condemn.
I want to quote to you two responses, one from the Prime Minister, one from the Junior Minister of Railways. The Prime Minister says you can tell who the protesters are from the clothes they are wearing, thinly hinting that this is Muslims. And the Junior Minister for Railways said last night that he's given orders that people who damage government property should be shot on sight. Is that the right sort of response from the PM or a minister?
The Prime Minister's comment is shocking. The Prime Minister's comment is shameful. The Prime Minister's comment is unbecoming of a Prime Minister. He is the Prime Minister of the whole nation, of every citizen, irrespective of faith and certainly irrespective of what clothes they wear. His attempt to single out a particular community is A, factually wrong because all Indians are involved in these protests, and B, is exceptionally insulting to the whole idea of India. As far as the junior railway minister is concerned, BJP has people within its ranks who have perfected the art of shooting off their mouth. And I wouldn't give cognizance to it even except that it needs to be fully condemned. It shows an insensitivity, by the way. It shows an insensitivity to the flower of our society, which are the young, the youth, the students. And it seems to say that if they, even if there's a misdemeanor happens, they should be shot dead. Is a very poor commentary on the worldview of the BJP if we are to take this minister and what he said as the vision of the BJP.
Now, you have spent an entire career, 30 years in the Foreign Service. You rose to be not just the official spokesman of the Government of India, but High Commissioner in Cyprus, Ambassador in Bhutan. How much damage has the CAA and the NRC and this attitude to students who are protesting done to India's image, not just in the neighborhood, but internationally?
You see, Karan, I have a view on this. Normally, I don't necessarily care, even when I was in government, about the slant of editorials written in the foreign press. But what is happening in India today has created a genuine level of disquiet in the observing international community because India's USP was, the respect that India had was for the fact that it is a secular and democratic republic, that it is a country which, unlike many countries around it, has chosen to be a country where democracy thrives, where economic progress is pursued, where people of all faiths are respected, that it is truly a plural and composite nation. When this image begins to be damaged, it affects everything from the way people look at India as politicians, as tourists, as investors. It is bad for the image of my country because that image is not congruent with what India had resolved to be and to which we are all committed. So therefore, I will not dismiss this, that it has tarnished the image of India abroad.
My last question, I want to pick up on something you said there. In a real sense, it was the shared values of democracy and human rights that we have with European countries and American countries that underpinned the belief that India was an economic superpower and, more importantly, a country of deep and lingering strategic importance. Now, when voices in the United States House of Representatives, the British Parliament, the European Union, the United Nations start questioning India's commitment to these values, isn't that worrying for us?
It should be worrying. It should be worrying unless the current government believes that, like dissenting opinion in India, any criticism abroad is also against Indian interests. You know, governments, and I have been, as you said, the official spokesman of the Ministry of External Affairs and a diplomat who has represented the interests of my country abroad. Every government should endeavor to see that there is a perception about the country which is, if for lack of a better word, likable. In other words, a country, a democratic country, a secular country, a stable country is what India needs to project today, especially when there are so many competing economic destinations.
And
India is a big market.
And you're suggesting that under the Modi government, India is looking unlikable to the outside world?
I think so. If I'll tell you, irrespective of which country that is commenting on us, an unstable India, and I want to emphasize this point, an unstable India, an India which is not at peace with itself, an India where there is pervasive disquiet, is not only something that is not liked by Indians.
It's not liked by outsiders.
It's not liked by outsiders also, and is inimical to our interests.
But for a Prime Minister to have made his own country unlikable in the eyes of the world is a very sad commentary on the Prime Minister.
Well, I don't know if the Prime Minister is aware that he has done it, because ultimately all correctives can only work if people are willing to accept that they can on occasion go wrong. And right now my worry is that our present ruling dispensation believes that they are always right.
Pavan Varma, I thank you for speaking so openly, so candidly and so fully.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.